This is a community-supported legal education channel. Find out how you can support our mission at the links in the description below. All right, everyone, for our next story, I need to warn you. We're about to read some dad joke level puns. Keep watching at your own peril. What would cause the court to put in all this extra effort? Well, as the court says in this opinion, sometimes fact is stranger than fiction. It all starts with a man named Fisher who salvaged underwater shipwrecks, including a gold bar, which he later donated to his Maritime Heritage Museum. Visitors were allowed to hold and pick up the gold bar. That is, until it was stolen by a man named, I kid you not, Goldman. Goldman was tried and convicted of the theft and ordered to pay restitution to the museum as well as serve a prison sentence. The court valued the gold bar at more than $550,000. However, Goldman argues it's worth much less, which would reduce the amount he has to pay to the museum and the length of his sentence. This is the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals opinion on how you can put a value on a priceless artifact. In Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, Jim Hawkins memorably hunted for Captain Flint's hidden treasure. The Goonies put its own spin on treasure hunting when the title band of friends defied One-Eyed Willie's maze of booby traps to find his hidden treasure and save their beloved neighborhood. But for real-life treasure hunting stories, perhaps nothing beats the quests of the aptly named Mel Fisher and his company, Treasure Salvers, Inc. Fisher and his team specialized in finding and salvaging shipwrecks of Spanish galleons and other vessels from the Spanish colonial era off the coasts of Florida and its keys. As of the mid-1980s, Fisher's operation had recovered treasure worth approximately $400 million at the time. Among the treasure was gold bar number 27, which Fisher donated to the Mel Fisher Maritime Heritage Museum in Key West, Florida. There, gold bar 27 became iconic, and 3 to 4 million visitors handled it over the years. Enter defendant appellant Jared Alexander Goldman. Sometimes truth can be stranger than fiction, and co-defendant Richard Stephen Johnson. In 2010, Goldman and Johnson stole gold bar 27 from the museum. This appeal requires us to consider the proper standard, we might call it the gold standard, for determining, for purposes of ordering restitution under the Mandatory Victims Restitution Act, the value of gold bar 27. Today we take this golden opportunity to reaffirm that in a case like this one, where the loss of a unique artifact for which market value cannot fully compensate, courts must use replacement costs in determining restitution. While absolute precision is not required under the law, the district court must base its restitution order on evidence, and that evidence must show that the restitution will make the victim whole, nothing more, nothing less. So in other words, it's not a windfall. It's not, you stole my car, therefore I get $1 million. Only really if my car was worth pretty much exactly $1 million would I be entitled to restitution of that amount. So if you steal a $10,000 item causing me $5,000 of inconvenience, you're probably only going to be ordered to provide restitution for the $10,000. Maybe you can convince a court to go for the 15, but you're not going to get $1 million, is what I'm trying to say. It's not a windfall. There has to be a direct correlation or direct connection to the amount of money being ordered in restitution. Because the district court, without the benefit of our decision today, did not ascertain replacement value when it determined market value was insufficient and then imposed restitution, we vacate the restitution order and remand for a proceeding on valuation that applies the proper legal barometer to the gold bar here. Goldman also challenges the loss amount used to determine his offense level, but here we part ways with Goldman's analysis. The district court explained that it would impose the same sentence even if the loss figure was wrong. For that reason, and because the sentence the district court imposed is not substantively unreasonable, we affirm Goldman's sentence. We pick up Gold Bar 27's story in 1622. A Spanish fleet of ships set sail from Spain to various parts of the Americas to pick up cargoes of gold, silver, tobacco, copper, and other goods and take them back to Spain. After they obtained their cargoes, the ships convened in Havana, Cuba. Among these ships was the Santa Margarita, which carried Gold Bar 27. In all, 28 vessels, including the Tierra Firma fleet and its guard ships, then launched from Cuba and began their return to Spain with their bounty. The idea was that there would be safety in numbers. Unfortunately, though, traveling in a group could not protect the ships from severe weather. Without the benefit of modern weather technology, the ships left Havana on September 4th, 1622, smack in the thick of hurricane season, and sure enough, within 24 hours of the fleet's departure, a hurricane descended upon the vessels. 7 of the 28 ships sank in the waters between Cuba and the Florida Keys, or smashed on the reefs of the Florida Keys. Among these were the Nuestra Senora del Ottah and the Santa Margarita. So Gold Bar 27 on board the sunken Santa Margarita sat at the bottom of the ocean for hundreds of years. Then in 1969, Fisher and his team began searching the waters of the Florida Keys for the Ottah. And while they were looking for the cargo of that vessel, in 1980 they came across the Santa Margarita wreckage site. Fisher and his team recovered from that wreck, among other items, gold ingots, including Gold Bar 27. Let me make a guess here. There were at least 26 other gold bars. Just a guess. Later, to promote interest in the maritime history of Florida and the Caribbean, Fisher founded the museum in nearby Key West, the Mel Fisher Maritime Museum at melfisher.org. As we have noted, among other things, Fisher donated to the museum the item treasures salvers inventoried as Gold Bar 27 from the Santa Margarita. At the museum, Gold Bar 27 lived its best life. It became the focus of the museum's Lift a Gold Bar exhibit. This exhibit allowed visitors to enjoy a close encounter with Gold Bar 27. Visitors could place their hands in a display case and touch, handle, and raise the gold bar without removing it. As we have noted, during the gold bar's display in the museum, probably 3 to 4 million visitors picked up the gold bar. The bar became so famous that the museum centered its marketing on it. The marketing must have worked better than the museum had hoped, because in 2010, Goldman and Johnson drove all the way from West Palm Beach to the museum in Key West, Florida. There, Goldman served as a lookout while Johnson wandered around trying to find something to steal. Surveillance video showed Johnson unsuccessfully attempting to pry open several display cases while Goldman stood watch. Eventually, Johnson broke off a piece of the case displaying Gold Bar 27, and unfortunately, he did indeed lift the gold bar in a way the display certainly did not contemplate. Then he and Goldman, the iconic Gold Bar 27 in hand, left the museum and drove back to West Palm Beach. That's where Gold Bar 27's luck finally ran out. After stealing the bar, Johnson used the bar as his personal treasure stash, sawing off pieces as he needed for money until just a small piece remained. For readers unfamiliar with Florida's geography, the drive from, West Palm Beach to Key West is approximately a 5-hour drive with no traffic. FBI Special Agent Rhonda Squizzero testified at trial it took her 6 hours to make the drive in traffic. Johnson's counsel asserted that Johnson gave a sawed-off piece of the bar to Goldman as payment, but Goldman told law enforcement that Johnson left town without paying him the $2,000 Johnson had promised for Goldman's role in the crime. In any case, Gold Bar 27 was destroyed. Eventually, the law caught up with Goldman and Johnson. A grand jury indicted them for conspiracy to commit an offense against the United States and theft of major artwork. Goldman pled not guilty, and the court set the case for trial. Johnson, however, pled guilty to both counts of the indictment. In his factual proffer, Johnson agreed that Gold Bar 27 was worth approximately $556,000. At Goldman's trial, the government presented evidence detailing the history of Gold Bar 27 and Goldman's role in stealing it, which we already noted. It also put on evidence explaining how the government eventually discovered that Goldman and Johnson had been responsible for the theft. Specifically, while Johnson was attempting to steal Gold Bar 27, he left an identifiable fingerprint on the display case. The crime remained unsolved until 2015 when the Monroe County Sheriff's Office received an anonymous tip through Crime Stoppers. The caller led investigators to Goldman. In 2016, law enforcement interviewed Goldman, who admitted to serving as a lookout for Johnson while he stole the antique gold bar. During trial, Goldman also stipulated that the gold bar was more than 100 years old and was worth in excess of $100,000. The jury found Goldman guilty as charged. Goldman's pre-sentence investigation report valued the stolen gold bar at the $556,000 value the museum had placed on it. It noted that the victims included the museum and an insurance company, which had paid a $100,000 insurance claim to the museum for the theft. The pre-sentence report recommended finding Goldman responsible for a loss greater than $550,000, which would result in a 14-level enhancement under the law to Goldman's offense level. The PSI also noted that restitution was mandatory, and it concluded that the total loss was $556,000, with $456,000 owed to the museum and $100,000 owed to the insurance company. Johnson, who faced the same recommendations, challenged the valuation of the gold bar despite his earlier agreement or stipulation to that valuation in his factual proffer at the change of plea hearing. In particular, he objected to how the value would impact his guidelines offense level and his restitution obligation. In support of his objections to the valuation, Johnson submitted insurance documents by the museum's insurance provider describing how the insurance company calculated the value of the gold bar and what the insurance settlement amount would be. According to those documents, the insurance company did not agree with the museum's $555,696 valuation of the gold bar. It noted that it had asked the museum for information as to how a point system the museum used to value artifacts worked, but the museum had failed to respond. The insurance company stated it valued the gold bar using the methodology set forth in policy language, which provided coverage for liability under the current market value of the property at the time of loss. The policy further explained that the market value for fine art and collectible property is generally interpreted to be the price at which an asset would trade in a competitive auction setting. To calculate what the price would be, the insurance company identified 5 auctioned shipwreck gold bars from the Ottah, which would be deemed comparable to Gold Bar 27. Of those 5, the insurance company relied on 3 that had sold at auction in 2009. Based on its review, they determined that gold bars sell an average of 45% above their melt value. They calculated Gold Bar 27's melt value to be $63,228 based on its weight and purity. They added 45% to that value, along with 15% for its notoriety and iconic value, and therefore the sum was $101,165.01. The district court scheduled Goldman and Johnson to be sentenced on the same day. During the hearing, the government presented evidence of the value. Goldman and his attorney participated in that portion of the sentencing hearing since the court was determining the value of the gold bar. The president of the museum, Melissa Kendrick, testified that at the time that Gold Bar 27 was stolen, the museum estimated its value at $550,000. She estimated that the museum arrived at this valuation based on a point system used by the Mel Fisher Investor Division. Every artifact, when it is found, is appraised and given a value. The value is expressed in points. So, for example, this pen in 1985 might have been given 100 points. Today, it is still 100 points. But what changes is the valuation of a point. So that would move with the market because it is the number of points times the point value that would give you the fair market value, the price that a willing buyer and a willing seller would reach in a transaction. According to Kendrick, when Gold Bar 27 was recovered, it was assigned a value of 8,178 points. Multiplying those points by the value of a point at the time of the theft, the museum determined the value to be $556,000. Kendrick admitted to having no idea what the ongoing value and fluctuation in points was, nor did she explain how the value of a point was determined or why Gold Bar 27 was assigned 8,178 points at the time it was recovered from the shipwreck. After opining that the gold bar was worth $556,000, she recounted that when it was stolen, they only got paid about $100,000 from the insurance company. Although Kendrick acknowledged that several other comparably sized gold bars recovered from the wrecks had sold for much less than $556,000, she offered a couple of reasons. She said that the other bars were sold at auctions, and the only thing that you can derive from those sales is that a willing buyer and a willing seller were prepared to pay money. So very, very close to melt value. Second, Kendra continued that other gold bars did not have the pedigree, as the stolen bar was iconic, unlike the others, which were ordinary shipwreck bars. She emphasized that during the nearly 30 years it was on display, about 3 or 4 million people had touched it, which she opined had greatly increased the value of the bar. Yes, but if a bar is brought up from either of the two shipwrecks and they're put in somebody's sock drawer and they don't continue to gather the value for the story that the artifact could tell, if a gold bar belonged to Elvis and Elvis had that bar and did certain things with it, then that would become part of the story and it would enrich the value of the object. We at the museum enrich the value of that object by putting it on display and have every one of our visitors have the opportunity to interact firsthand with history. In short, she considered it to be priceless because there is not another bar to buy to replace it in all likelihood. I don't know. I'm going to break in here for a second. I think that a gold bar is a gold bar, and if the gold bars that come from shipwrecks from 1622 or whatever, if those gold bars are worth $100,000, which is 45% more than market value, fine. But just because a whole bunch of people touched it, and just because it was the one that sat on display does not really make it any different than any of the other gold bars. You could take gold bar 26 and put it back in that display, and I think it would have the exact same effect. Nobody is coming to see gold bar number 27. They are coming to see a gold bar that was brought up from a shipwreck. And if there are other gold bars that are identical in weight, I guess, or mass, I guess would be the right way to say it, then fine. Then you just put another gold bar on display, and I don't think there's a difference. But, reasonable minds could disagree. Nevertheless, she conceded that the museum is not in the business of buying and selling gold bars, so I have no personal knowledge as to what the prices for the artifacts have sold for. She stated that they had not replaced gold bar 27 because that would require both money to pay for a replacement and the availability of a replacement bar from a private collector willing to sell it. So I guess there aren't any other gold. So gold bar 26 has already been auctioned off or something. The district court sentenced Johnson to a total of 63 months imprisonment and restitution of $580,000, jointly and severally with Goldman, which means they're both responsible for paying the full amount, but not more than the full amount. Next, the court convened Goldman's sentencing hearing. After calculating his offense level at 24 and his criminal history category at 1, with a corresponding guidelines range of 51 to 63 months imprisonment, the court sentenced him to 40 months imprisonment for each count to be served concurrently, which means parallel, which means 40 months total, followed by 3 years of supervised release. The court also ordered Goldman to pay $570,000 jointly and severally with Johnson. For the record, Goldman objected to the court's determination of the bar's value. Then the government asked the district court whether it would have imposed the same sentence had it not made the determination as to value. The district court responded, yes, I would have made the same determination because my position is that it was a priceless work of art. Goldman appeals. And I'm going to start skipping ahead here. So they go over the guidelines and how you calculate the level of the offense. And so a value greater than $550,000 but less than $1.5 million adds 14 points to the sentencing guidelines. But the court did not correctly ascertain the value of gold bar 27 for the purposes of sentencing guidelines. Goldman says it should be more than $95,000 but less than $150,000, which would have set his offense level to be an 18 with a corresponding guidelines range of 27 to 33 months, and he was sentenced to 40 months. So there should be a lowering of his sentence because the guidelines sentence would have been lower. So we must consider whether the 40-month sentence was substantively reasonable. To conduct the evaluation, we look at the totality of the circumstances, and they end up deciding that, yes, the 40-month sentence is reasonable. However, they then go back and look at the restitution and ultimately conclude that the sentence did not fall outside of the range of guidelines, but the restitution did. So they review the restitution order de novo, so brand new from the beginning. Restitution should not provide a windfall for crime victims. Restitution awards must be based on the amount of loss actually caused by the defendant's conduct. They look at the value of the gold bar. The loss involves a unique item which no ready market for it exists, so fair market value may not be an option. We have no precedent that directly articulates how a court should determine the value of a unique item stolen from a museum, but they go over a couple cases that we're going to skip because this is going to become a very long story. And ultimately, they decide that the court identified the value as $556,000 based on Kendrick's testimony, and that was pretty much it. We have no idea what the purpose of the Mel Fisher Investor Division point system is. We have no idea how the Mel Fisher Investor Division determined that Gold Bar 27 was assigned 8,178 points. In the absence of evidence, we cannot evaluate the district court's valuation, so we must vacate the order of restitution and remand to the district court to conduct an evidentiary hearing to determine the reasonable estimate of a replacement cost for Gold Bar 27. So that's how they'll determine restitution is based on the replacement cost. And that's basically, that brings us to the end of the court's opinion. So what they will now consider is the melt value, the sales of comparable gold bars, including a premium for the fact that it was recovered from the Santa Margarita, and a premium for the iconic lift-a-bar exhibit aspect of Gold Bar 27. But the record contains no indication of how the insurance company arrived at a 15% premium for the lift-a-bar exhibit status. We also do not know whether that 15% premium is reasonable. So all of these questions must be now considered by the district court, and maybe Mr. Johnson's and maybe Mr. Goldman's gold bar theft restitution will be reduced by some amount. But he's still going to be serving, I guess it's 85% of 40 months in prison. So yeah. Let us know what you think of that court opinion in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I don't think it said how much money he made selling the pieces. It said that it was Johnson who sold the pieces, and that Goldman was only supposed to get $2,000 and then did not get $2,000. All right, that is our show, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me. This is Lawful Masses, your favorite legal news and education channel, and I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney. This channel would not exist without your financial support on patreon.com/ljfrench and sponsus.com/law. Thank you to the following $50 plus supporters in the month of April: Wes Delj, Video Quarantined, John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Eevi, Kyle Mudrak, Spirit Bear, Michael Pearce, Jan Negrey, Daniel Perez, Aspernari, Joe Tyson, Benjamin Hitov, Stephen, Ottah, Cute Grills in Your Area, Longreach Jones, Zachary Chaney, Nicely Done Defense, Wesley Mullen, Sean McNamara, Josh Baker, Ugly Grill, Gregory, Shielo T, Michael Moore, and Beastman. And thank you to all the $5 plus supporters. Everyone's scrolling on that LED panel behind me, and you'll be in the description of the videos below. My birthday is March 31st, and I'll be doing a special March 31st live stream. I'm turning 40, so I figure I can't have my birthday party out. We're gonna have a birthday party here together. I don't even know that I can go out and get any decorations, so yeah, it'll just be a very plain 40th birthday party for me. A very merry unbirthday for me. So anyway, thank you very much for your support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. I love you all. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, observe your social distancing practices, and I will see you in the videos that drop. I love you all. Bye. Yeah, Kaylee did his hat last year for my birthday. So I thought it would. Oh, hello. Am I ignoring you? Am I ignoring you? Did you had to pee so badly that you didn't say hi at first? What a good boy. Jeez, you guys move around so fast. It's hard for me to keep up with the camera.
I'll be your light.